Part 13. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 121. Lu Feng took Du Kefeng to dinner, went back to the hotel to open a room, and went downstairs to buy some clothes for him. Zhang Fengxia kept looking at him coldly. After shopping for clothes, Lu Feng got out of the car with his clothes in his arms. He forgot to leave the car door open. He turned to look at her and said, "Close the door and lock the car. Are you sure he will have great luck in the next 10 years? Why do I feel like you have found your long-lost brother?" Zhang Fengxia asked in confusion as she closed the car door. "Stop talking nonsense." Lu Feng spent most of the day making arrangements for Du Kefeng properly. He ate a steak at the Western restaurant of the hotel at dinner time. As the saying goes, people rely on clothes, Buddhas rely on gold clothes. At night, Du Kefeng already looks like the boss of the upper class. Wearing a small black suit, with a big back, the whole person is very energetic. The decadence in the morning has been swept away. With the blessing of Lu Feng's metaphysics, although the current Du Kefeng's wife has run away, both parents have died, and the child is not his own, brother betrayed, he is still bankrupt, but he still feels that the future is promising. Zhang Fengxia was stunned when she saw his spirit. She sat down and looked at Lu Feng and said, "I admire you very much. He doesn't want to live anymore in the morning. That's when my life went astray. From now on, I have to make a break with my former self. God's test for me is over, and what follows is my real life," Du Kefeng said seriously. "That's right, when you see prosperity, you can hold on to loneliness, and you can lose it if you have it. You understand." Lu Feng held up his red wine glass and said, "Come, cheers for a better tomorrow." The red wine glass collided, Zhang Fengxia took a sip, and whispered, "Why do I think he has a mental problem? If you make him unable to make a fortune, he must not commit suicide immediately." "Don't worry, you're all with me, can you still make a fortune?" Lu Feng confidently believed. Zhang Fengxia stared at him with wide eyes. Why did she feel that the two of them were not in a normal state of mind? "Is this thing contagious?" "That's right, our factory is very large, and the entire construction covers an area of about 5,000 mu. Of course, the pre-construction project is only 1,000 mu at most. You have managed the company before, and you are familiar with some local ways?" "Very familiar." Du Kefeng nodded again and again, suddenly raised his head and asked, "What do you do?" "The food maker." "Don't worry, as long as I'm here, I know everything from the product to the market, so just wait and count the money," Du Kefeng said confidently. "Looking at your age, your father should be a rich man in your local area." Obviously, he regarded Lu Feng as the kind of rich second generation who eats and waits to die. Just as Zhang Fengxia was about to speak, Lu Feng stopped him. "Yes, I can authorize you to use some of the company's money to form a team first. The backbone of the department must be complete. You can go to the talent market to find it, or you can find someone you are familiar with before. I don't care. My requirement is to be able to manage with a team of more than 2,000 people. The new factory could not be built for a while, and I have applied to rent some local factories for production. Not only do you have to form a team, but also plan the construction of the new factory area, as well as all the production and market conditions. I can tell you this, you will be crazy busy for a while in the future." "It's all right, don't be afraid to be busy." Du Kefeng raised his head and said, "I'm afraid to be idle." Lu Feng asked him some questions about factory management and future development, but the other party answered them fluently. Lu Feng was a little relieved. He should have no problem with his brain. In the last life, it was written in the book that there were rumors that he was stimulated and had problems with his brain. Now it seems that it should be a rumor. After eating, they went back to their rooms. Zhang Fengxia stood at the door of the room and said, "Are you sure you want to hand over the factory here to him?" Lu Feng felt it, she was suspicious all day, and said, Do you think I'm a joker? I believe in him, and I think he can do it, but he lacks a chance. Many people in this world are very capable, but they just lack an opportunity, and many people can't wait for this opportunity in their entire lives. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he went back to the house to rest. 2 days later, the application was approved. The whole process was very fast, and even the rented factory was arranged. The original number 1 machinery factory, covering an area of 1,500 mu, could accommodate 2,800 employees to start work at the same time. What Feng did not expect was that such a large factory would actually reduce the rent for 7 months. Lu Feng registered the company and opened several company accounts in the bank. He first handed over the management rights to Feng. The bank's low-interest loans kept him busy, and he could be supervised by finance after a period of time. Although the factory claims to cover an area of 1,500 mu, the actual factory is not that big, mainly the family building next to it, and some office buildings, a total of 3 large workshops, 2 large warehouses, and a 4-story office building. It is already a very luxurious configuration. Today is February 20th. In a month's time, can we recruit all the people and carry out certain employee training? Lu Feng stood still and looked at Du Kefeng and said, I'll make 1 million in the company account first. In the past 2 days, you are busy with the loan, then take the money to start the operation, and within a month, I will ensure that the machines and raw materials are in place. No problem, but don't I need to participate in product design and marketing? These have been decided. If new products are developed in the future, you will be invited to participate. However, you can do a research on the local market and give it to me. I will go back tomorrow. A group of financial personnel will come in a few days. Accounts will also be entrusted to banks for supervision. Don't worry, I understand all these things. I have also worked in a company. Although it is not that big, I understand how courageous it is to put a sum of money in the hands of someone who has known each other for a few days. At least I don't have that courage. Du Kefeng smiled. Let's have a meal together. If all 16 factories are successfully launched this year, we will overcome difficulties in the market, ride the wind and waves, and then we will be able to set up GMA Food Group. Groupization is the only way to go. At the end of last year, Lu Feng wanted to establish a complete assembly line model from source production, material processing, product design, and brand marketing. Once this model is formed, it is basically invincible, and it has a higher and lower ability with the later generations of Wahaha, Master Kong, and other large groups. I had a meal together in the evening, and Du Kefeng went to work after dinner after 8 o'clock in the evening. Lu Feng didn't know whether he was looking forward to the future, or whether he was numbing himself with crazy work. All this was not important. On the way back, Lu Feng bought a lot of toys and some local delicacies. After returning to the hotel, he called Zhang Xiaoyan and fell asleep. Zhang Fengxia was lying in bed and couldn't sleep. She heard Lu Feng mention a lot about the future development in the past few days. She always felt that it was very magical. With such a big leverage, let's not talk about the probability of winning. She made a rough estimate that even if the 6 factories in the early stage failed to open, the local government of the next 10 factories would recover all of them, and he would not be held accountable. The money from the construction party of the local factory construction. This number is unimaginable, but she has heard all the good news in the past few days. Lu Feng brings new hope every day. Zhang Fengxia has seen with her own eyes that Lu Feng's business empire is advancing little by little. If she hadn't studied economics and business abroad, she would have even been crazy about this confident man. But she used her professional knowledge to decompose the key points. There were risks everywhere, and he kept dancing on the tip of the knife. When she goes back tomorrow, her mission will be over. Zhang Fengxia has been thinking about a question for the past 2 days, whether she should stay by Lu Feng's side for 2 more days. She talked to some uncles about this matter, and those people spoke highly of Lu Feng. Gao is basically something that has experience, judges the situation, and is good at using others to achieve oneself. Such words. Zhang Fengxia's own conclusion to Lu Feng is that death is shameless. As long as he has money to make him, he is shameless. Sometimes laughing and laughing, he seems to be inconspicuous, but it is to cover up his true purpose and give people a kind of harmless to humans and animals the false appearance. In fact, behind the false appearance are ruthless fangs. It was already past 2 in the middle of the night, and Zhang Fengxia still couldn't sleep. She tossed and sat up and leaned on the head of the bed, muttering to herself, "Would you like to stay for a few more days? I don't think this person has much to learn from." The next morning, Lu Feng packed up everything, put out a large suitcase, took the hotel car to the airport, landed at 11 o'clock noon, did not go home first after leaving the airport, but went straight to the factory. For more than 20 days, Lu Feng sometimes couldn't remember how many dangers occurred. The factory became more standardized, the employees who came in and out were all wearing work clothes, the door of the factory was hardened, and slogans were written on the wall of the factory. "Mr. Lu is back." Lu Feng looked at this person, he was not very familiar with him, but the other party ran over enthusiastically to carry Lu Feng's suitcase. There were more people in the factory, and there was no shortage of flattering people. "Where's Mr. Gao?" Lu Feng asked when he walked to the door of the financial room. As for the meeting, this Monday, a fire rehearsal was recently held inside the factory. "Is Manager Li there?" Lu Feng asked again. "Manager Li has been on a business trip for the past 2 days. He should be in the Northeast for the past 2 days. The contract has just been signed there. Mr. Gao sent a small team of 6 people to take over." "Do you have anything to say to me?" the other party said confidently. "You may not be familiar with me. I am the director of our financial department now. Manager Li is not there. I am responsible for all the funds in the factory. I am President Li's apprentice." Lu Feng could hear it, the other party's eloquent self-introduction might last for a while, and he hurriedly interrupted, "Give 150,000 yuan to this beauty, and pay now." 150,000. Zhang Fengxia was in a hurry. She was so scared that she almost lost her life. She pulled the suitcase and shouted, "I said 300,000. You took my arm that night and said, 150,000 yuan." Lu Feng said angrily, "Think about it, in the villa area that night, did you say that?" I'm humming." Zhang Fengxia glared angrily and said with a sneer, 300,000 yuan is not enough for $1 less. If you don't give it to me, I won't leave. I will be there every day. Stake with you and let everyone see who you are. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 122. There are many employees around. When Lu Feng first entered the factory gate, someone noticed Zhang Fengxia and whispered about what the boss was doing with a beautiful woman behind him. Some old employees who had met Zhang Xiaoyan said that she was not Mr. Lu's wife. Now Zhang Fengxia is asking for money, and it's still 300,000 yuan. It's hard to avoid making people think about it. Everyone, look at me, and I will look at you. Although the fire of gossip is burning in my heart, no one dares to ask. They even lowered their heads and deliberately avoided them. They also understand that men, with money, are prone to loose waistbands. Director Zhou of the finance department did not expect that the first thing to be handled by the boss would be so difficult. He is also a veteran in finance, but he still has little experience in dealing with this kind of situation. "Mr. Lu, can you give me this money? Give me a hammer? Can you post the extra 150,000 yuan, Lu Feng said, pulling his suitcase to his office. "If you don't give it to me, I won't leave. If there is someone like you, half of it is missing." Zhang Fengxia followed, and she kept talking. When a group of people saw Lu Feng leaving, they all gathered around and wanted to gossip. Director Joe cleared his throat and said, "Don't talk nonsense, you're all busy with yourself, you know." In the office, Zhang Fengxia glared angrily, looked at Lu Feng and shouted, "Why are you like this? You said it yourself. I was so scared that I peed my pants. Not to mention half of it, even if I don't want a dime, I have to agree. How many places have I run with you during this time and how much I have used?" Zhang Fengxia pointed at him, gasping for breath. Lu Feng sat down and saw that the documents stacked on the table were a bit big. Now that he can pay with his mouth, he will pay with his mouth, and he will save money when he can. "It's okay to give 300,000 yuan, Lu Feng took out a piece of paper, held a pen and lowered his head to write for a while, and said, "This is an IOU of 300,000 yuan. You can come to me with it this time next year." Zhang Fengxia took the IOU, glanced at it, tore it up, sat down on the sofa, and said, "I'll go to your house to eat white rice if you don't pay me. Just right, accompany my wife to relieve the boredom, and coax the children by the way." You are so shameless." Lu Feng ignored it, lowered his head and glanced at the documents. They were all originals of the factory builders from all over the world, the signatures that should be signed. The GMA food raw material processing plant in Baiwan City has been fully put into operation, and it is preparing to expand its scale recently. The number of employees in the factory has increased to more than 700. At that time, it will not only be able to supply local goods, but also supply to the new factory in Hebei. Since the beginning of this year, the production of products has continued to accelerate, and the market has been deeply cultivated, covering 27 counties in 6 cities in the province, and the monthly profit has increased to more than 3 million. Lu Feng flipped through the latest market research report, and a rough survey showed that GMA Food's profit ceiling in this province is more than 5 million, with an annual profit of about 60 million, and the food industry share can reach 12%. This market share is very terrifying. The market share of the most popular food in the future cannot exceed 3%. To have such a strong market share is entirely due to the lack of local food companies, and the market products are simplistic, just like the current TV series. Sowing one fire and one is not because it looks better than later generations, but because it is just one. A province has a net profit of 60 million a year. If Lu Feng built 16 factories, he would be considered the richest man in the region. Of course, there is a long way to go, and the market competition will be particularly fierce. All the 6 factories in the early stage have been discussed. Gao Jiwei led the establishment of a planning department. Some talents cultivated in the factory, as well as all the talents from state-owned enterprises, were placed in this department to plan the 6 factories in the early stage. The 6 factories occupy a total of 11,400 acres of land, almost reaching 2,000 acres per factory. Lu Feng is not surprised by the scale of the land acquisition. Now the land is not worth much at all. The 6 places received a total of 89 million low-interest and interest-free loans. Most of them are classified as special funds, which cannot be withdrawn in cash. They can only be transferred by bank. Some places even stipulate that they can only be spent on a few construction companies. With a capital of nearly 90 million yuan, there was no problem at all in building a few factories in the early stage. Lu Feng looked at about 16 million of the special funds in Africa, which was enough to buy a large-scale assembly line. There was a knock on the door. Gao Jiwei stood at the door. Lu Feng raised his head and said, "Come in." Gao Jiwei entered the door and watched Zhang Fengxia sitting there angrily. He was a little puzzled, but he also heard that the two seemed to have quarreled. "Mr. Lu, you came directly to the factory. Didn't you go back to see your sister-in-law? Sit down and finish the factory first." Lu Feng flipped through the document and asked, "How is the assembly line connection? Why didn't I see the list in this regard?" Here Gao Jiwei took out a red one from a pile of folders, put it on the table, and asked in a low voice, "Did you two quarrel?" You don't need to whisper, I can hear the big slap in the office. Gao Jiwei, you can do it yourself. When you do things, don't give money, Zhang Fengxia said angrily. Gao Jiwei looked at Lu Feng with a troubled face. I gave her 150,000 yuan, she insisted on 300,000 yuan, half of what she said. 300,000, Gao Jiwei was frightened by this number, looked at Zhang Fengxia and said, didn't you say 30,000? 30,000 is 30,000. You ask him how many things happened during this time. I was almost killed. I knew this earlier, let alone 300,000, I wouldn't go even if it was 3 million. Zhang Fengxia remembered that fear was written on his face at night. Gao Jiwei knew that things were going to be difficult, but he didn't expect it to be so dangerous, so he said in horror, how could this happen? Mr. Lu, didn't you say you're in a little trouble? Yes, little trouble, it's not that I have no arms or legs. She called me at the time, half-less. Lu Feng was afraid that Gao Jiwei would be caught in the middle, so he closed the folder and said, all right, 300,000, let the finance account. No, when I think of the situation that day, I feel that 300,000 is too much of a loss. Zhang Fengxia looked at him and said, 300,000 can't solve it. Gao Jiwei stood up and walked over and whispered, I'll give you the bottom line, everyone is a team, the first project has been negotiated a long time ago, and the talent is more than 100,000 yuan, you need an extra 35,000 yuan, as a spirit loss fee. I will talk to President Lu, how much do you want? I want 3 million. How much? Gao Jiwei's voice increased several times. Even Lu Feng was startled, stared at her with wide eyes, and said, you don't want a penny anymore. Zhang Fengxia really doesn't want money anymore. She had the answer in her heart just now. She wants to stay. She has studied economic theory and business rules for so many years, but she is not familiar with the actual operation. She thinks that Lu Feng is just the opposite. People have extensive business experience. I won't leave if you don't give it to me, I'll stick to you. Zhang Fengxia simply played tricks. Anyway, she learned a lot from Lu Feng during this time. The person you're looking for, Lu Feng looked at Gao Jiwei and said, Miss 3 million. Gao Jiwei was a little embarrassed, but when he saw Zhang Fengxia, he didn't seem to be so angry, as if he was deliberately making an excuse. Then he looked at Lu Feng. He also heard some rumors just now. Now, seeing this situation, he seems to have noticed something. You two can solve it? This. Lu Feng was a little helpless. Now that time is tight, he can only put this matter aside for now, and said, what about the financial statements? This, as well as the personnel report, the factory directors I told you before are all okay. I dug up 3 and trained a few deputy directors. This year, I have promoted 4 people to be deputy directors. It's the personnel's information and resume. Gao Jiwei opened the folder. Lu Feng looked at them and saw that there were either some senior managers of state-owned enterprises, or one who was retired and rehired. The rest were basically involved in management and were recruited last year. Lu Feng nodded, signed it, flipped through and saw that there were 3 or 4 people behind him who he didn't know, and frowned slightly, aren't these from our factory? These 4 people were recently recruited. I prepared them for the factory in Henan. This one is 53 this year, and he used to be the general manager of the agricultural machinery factory. He is a capable person. Okay, Lu Feng raised his hand to tell him not to continue. I have already found a good candidate for the factory manager over there, and I have already explained the matter to him. Ah, Gao Jiwei was a little dazed, then nodded for a while and said, Mr. Lu has friends over there. I just met him. I just think he is quite capable. By the way, when will Manager Li come back? Lu Feng wondered, what's the situation with the financial director? That person is Mr. Li's apprentice. He has also left the company during this period. He is still familiar with internal finance, just to give him a name. Manager Lee is now in charge of these branches. He is just starting out, and he is very busy. Lu Feng nodded and said, I won't ask too much about the things in this factory. The assembly line must be arranged well. Those factories that are temporarily rented are basically arranged, although the assembly line is allowed to move in and produce as soon as possible. I know, I will rush, but the time is too short. This year is destined to be crazy. I don't even read these packaging design, marketing, and planning cases. I will inform the people in the design department for a meeting tomorrow. Also, when I leave, let the people in the R/U0026D department make some flavors. Come out, how's it going? Gao Jiwei felt sick to his stomach when he heard the word flavor, nodded and said, I did make a few. We almost vomited from what we ate during this time. Okay, let them show it to me at the meeting tomorrow. Lu Feng separated the folders one by one, and quickly skipped some important things in his mind. The phone on the table rang, and Gao Jiwei picked it up and said, GMA Food Office, who is it? Mr. Gao. Isn't Lu Feng back yet? Gao Jiwei handed over the phone and said, Sister-in-laws. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 123. Zhang Fengxia, who was sitting on the side, had been quietly watching Lu Feng deal with various affairs just now, but when she heard that it was Zhang Xiaoyan's call, she seemed a little concerned. Although she knew Zhang Xiaoyan, the two had never met. Lu Feng took the phone and said, Hey, what's the matter? I can't call you if I'm okay. I've been on a business trip for so long, and I don't know how to go home when I get back, so I went straight to the factory. Zhang Xiaoyan's words were full of resentment. Okay, it's not busy. Then are you coming back for dinner? It's 5 o'clock. I'll eat here at night, the work at hand will not be finished in a while. Then I'll pick up Duo and eat at the factory. Zhang Xiaoyan said a few words and hung up the phone. Lu Feng continued to deal with the matter at hand. Managers of various departments came and went in the office. There was the sound of high heels outside the door, and then two slender legs walked in. A pair of high heels that were not high, but absolutely exquisite, and a loose pair of high heels came in. Striped trousers, the upper body is a lady's small suit, the snow-white neck is covered with a pretty face, and there is a little makeup, but it gives a rich and noble atmosphere. Zhang Fengxia was dazed for a while, and she calmed down and sighed inwardly who this person was. She was too beautiful. After looking carefully, she found that this person was rich and noble, but she did not have the inner temperament to control wealth. She was just rich. And it felt like she didn't earn the money. People who can make money often have a kind of self-confidence, giving people a sense of full spirit. That kind of feeling cannot be faked. Dad, a pink girl ran in from the door. When Lu Feng raised his head and saw the little guy, he realized that Zhang Xiaoyan was here. Seeing her eyes brightened, with a surprised smile on his face, he said, I haven't seen you for a few days, she's so pretty. Then what do you mean, I didn't look good before? Zhang Xiaoyan asked sarcastically. How could that be? You look good no matter what. Lu Feng hugged Duo in his arms and said, is the kindergarten good? The little guy was originally happy, but when he heard Lu Feng's question, his big eyes were full of fog, as if the rain was about to pour in the next second. He pouted and said, you're bad, big bad, I want a gift, you give it to me. I bought a present. I bought it. Lu Feng hurriedly carried her to the suitcase and opened the suitcase to get her a gift. Zhang Xiaoyan spoke politely to Gao Jiwei. She was also familiar with the other managers in the room, and her eyes fell on Zhang Fengxia. For some reason, out of a woman's instinct, she had an indescribable disgust towards her. Who is this? Hello, I'm Mr. Lu's partner. I mainly help him with business negotiations. Zhang Fengxia extended her hand and praised her. I heard that Mr. Lu's wife is beautiful, and she is well deserved when she saw her today. Zhang Xiaoyan shook hands and said, "You're welcome. It's you who is on a business trip with Lu Feng, isn't it over yet?" "It's over, but there are some formalities, procedures, you have to go, it will take some time," Gao Jiwei said aside. Duo ran out happily with the gift. Lu Feng stood up and said, "Let's put work aside and eat first. Mr. Lu, the restaurant is ready. I'll take care of you tonight." Gao Jiwei stood up and said, "Then let's eat first, Fengxia, let's eat together." If Zhang Xiaoyan wasn't here, even if Gao Jiwei didn't invite her, she would go to dinner with a shameless face, but now it's different. Lu Feng noticed her strangeness and said, "Let's go, you are also a hero, and I will respect you when the time comes." A cup. When Zhang Fengxia said 3 million, Lu Feng knew that she just didn't want to leave. As for why she didn't want to leave, Lu Feng couldn't figure it out for a while. Maybe he wanted to see how he rose or fell, or maybe he felt a little bit about himself. Different feelings. Now she can only hope for the first type. If it is the second type, she may be injured. For a talent like Zhang Fengxia who has study abroad experience and background, Lu Feng can't ask for anything. In fact, as long as a talent like her is cultivated, she can take on important responsibilities. The cafeteria was very lively, there were 4 tables, and the management of GMA food was basically there. People kept greeting Lu Feng, but they couldn't handle it for a while. Mr. Lu's business trip this time has won the most solid fortress for GMA food, with 5,000 mu of land, more than 30 million loans, and a 3-year tax-free policy. Mr. Lu has worked hard. A slightly bald man looked excited and took the lead in applauding. "Let's applaud Mr. Lu, he always works so hard, just like our father." This was disgusting, and the others could only applaud. Lu Feng frowned slightly, glanced at Han Dong not far away, beckoned him to come over, and asked, "Who is that person?" "Your son," Han Dong said with a hint of ridicule. "Don't everyone say it, you are just like a father. Can you speak seriously?" A deputy director in the warehouse management, Ren Yuzi, sees people, talking about ghosts. "I have long seen him unhappy. Tell the personnel, find an excuse to get rid of it," Lu Feng ordered. Gao Jiwei raised his hand and pressed it down for a while, before the prolonged applause fell, and said, "This year, the factory has made a lot of moves. You should be able to see from the endless meetings held this year and the expansion across the country. Next, let Lu always say 2 words for everyone." There was applause again. Lu Feng hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Let's talk about it first. Don't bring the sloppy attitude of state-owned enterprises into the factory, and promote capable people. In the future, there will be many factories all over the country, and the group headquarters will be established. With greater ability, you can take on greater responsibilities. This year will be very difficult for us, especially for the management. Difficulties represent opportunities. Maybe the next factory manager will be you and the next equity stake. It will fall on your head, and you will be the next company partner, that's all." When these words ended, a few people who wanted to applaud looked left and right, wondering if they should applaud. Lu Feng's words were to tell the people present that he didn't like flattering people. "Everyone, take your seats," Gao Jiwei said. The dinner table was nothing more than a toast. Lu Feng held a lot of it, plus what he said just now, it saved a lot of trouble. Zhang Xiaoyan said while eating, "There are really many things in the kindergarten now, let me buy it." "What kind of ship model?" "Just like a tossing person." The teacher said to see the boat and make it by hand. Duo said dancing. Lu Feng didn't expect that the current kindergarten is so frustrating, but yes, she went to a noble kindergarten, which naturally has many problems. Looking at the little guy, he said, "It's okay, Dad will make one for you." "Dad is amazing." The little guy gave Lu Feng a big compliment without hesitation, causing a smile on Lu Feng's face. Everyone at the dinner table began to praise Duo Duo, who is smart, cute, beautiful, and various words. Only Gao Jiwei asked with a smile, "Mr. Lu, my family is a son, how old is Duo Duo? You shouldn't dislike it, right?" "Bum, it's not uncommon," Lu Feng said angrily, "look at you, your son is not handsome." Everyone burst into laughter, only Zhang Fengxia was sitting alone eating, her eyes were always on Duo Duo. She carefully compared her appearance with Lu Feng, and suddenly there was a shocking discovery, the two were completely different. Not only is it different from Lu Feng, but it is also slightly different from Zhang Xiaoyan. This discovery made her a little restless. Looking at the people around her, she had to bow her head to eat in order not to look strange to herself. After dinner, it was already past 8 o'clock in the evening, and it was already dark outside. When Lu Feng was leaving, he suddenly remembered that Zhang Fengxia didn't have a place to live tonight, and asked, "Where are you staying tonight?" "I can do it anywhere." "Then let's stay at the hotel first, go to Tianyu Hotel and open a room, where you can keep accounts, and put them on the account of GMA Food. Since you won't be able to leave for a while, then start to familiarize yourself with the factory tomorrow." "Okay, listen to President Lu. Mr. Gao, remember to inform the product and design meeting tomorrow morning." "I'll go back first." Lu Feng gave a few words, but didn't say anything more. He didn't mention money from the beginning to the end. Zhang Fengxia seemed to have a good heart. Generally not mentioned. Gao Jiwei looked at her, a person who had no position and was not in the factory, but was arranged by the chairman of the factory. Perhaps she was already Lu Feng's assistant or secretary at this time. On the way back, Zhang Xiaoyan was driving, and Lu Feng was sitting in the co-pilot holding Duo Duo, looking at her profile with an indescribable taste. Zhang Xiaoyan blushed at her burning eyes, turned her head and said, "What are you looking at?" "Looking at you, beautiful. People say that Xiaobi is better than the newlyweds. I feel it is true. Now I think you are as beautiful as a fairy." "Blind mouth, you are such a sweet mouth." "What I said is true." Lu Feng asked a lot, "Sleeping on the sofa tonight, okay?" "No, you want to make me a boat, and the teacher wants it tomorrow." "Got it, Dad will make you a boat, you sleep on the sofa." "Well, Dad has something to talk to Mom about." Lu Feng coaxed and lied. Duo Duo's big black eyes looked at Zhang Xiaoyan, who was driving. "Duo Duo is the best, sleep alone. She has always been very shy." The first time she said to persuade the little guy to sleep on his own, a smile appeared on Lu Feng's face, but she gave her a fierce look. When she got home and opened the door, Lu Feng was standing behind her, and a refreshing scent came out, which made people unable to help leaning up. Zhang Xiaoyan noticed his strangeness and blushed. "You really?" After entering the door and putting Duo Duo on the ground, the little guy jumped up and down excitedly, trying to make a boat, otherwise everything we talked about before would not count. It can be seen that in her heart, the teacher's words are heaven, this boat can't be built, nobody wants to sleep tonight. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 124. The room was extremely clean. Lu Feng sat on the ground and picked up scissors to make a boat. The little guy was lying on the side and staring at him, his eyes full of admiration. Lu Feng suddenly realized that doing handicrafts can increase his sense of pride, especially when she looks at him like this. He suddenly feels that he is very powerful. "Can you two sit on the sofa?" Zhang Xiaoyan urged. "It's all right, there's heating, it's not cold," Lu Feng said and pulled a cushion from the side and put it under his buttocks. "Isn't that Zhang Fengxia doing some business negotiation? After everything is done, why are you still staying?" Zhang Xiaoyan asked casually, but her eyes turned towards the side. I don't know what she thinks. It's better to stay. It's in the stage of great development and needs talents. Is she a college student? International students, from Harvard University, or graduate students? Isn't it a local, a girl whose family is out of town? Is she married? Lu Feng had heard that. She was obviously thinking too much, put down the things in her hand, looked at her and said, I'm not married, and people told me that they like me, think I'm handsome, and they want to be my lover. You agreed? Zhang Xiaoyan asked nervously. Seeing her appearance, Lu Feng couldn't help laughing, and joked, I told her, I have to discuss it with my wife. Zhang Xiaoyan lowered her head and looked a little dejected, and said, you don't need to tell me to discuss, I don't know, I know I have no culture, and now you have money. Lu Feng originally wanted to make fun of him, but he didn't expect her to take it seriously, so he hurriedly interrupted, what nonsense? I'm teasing you, I'm not an old landlord, and I'm married to a young man? You don't know what to say all day long. What? I also stayed with the wives of many rich people during this time. They said that their men are all, there are more than one, this is normal. Okay, others are other people, don't listen to their nonsense about some things, I'll finish this, go to bed early, you just need to clean up. Lu Feng raised his eyebrows slightly ambiguous. Zhang Xiaoyan raised her head and looked flustered, and said in surprise, you want to hit me? Lu Feng was speechless, he said, it's the kind of cleanup, what are you thinking about? Go back to the bedroom. Lu Feng looked at her. For so long, he felt that he had given Zhang Xiaoyan a warm home, rich and comfortable. He felt that the wounds he had suffered have been completely healed. But at that moment, the panic in her eyes was still so real. Maybe some wounds need to be warmed for a lifetime. It was past 9 o'clock in the evening, and Duo fell asleep on Lu Feng's lap. The boat was ready, Lu Feng put it aside, picked up the little guy and put it on the sofa, covered with a blanket. After taking a brief shower, he opened the bedroom door and found that Zhang Xiaoyan had not slept. He closed the door gently, crept to the bed, and suddenly rushed up. Zhang Xiaoyan was startled, she raised her hand and hid. Just as she was about to reprimand, her lips were blocked. He was wild like a beast, and Zhang Xiaoyan didn't even have a chance to resist. In fact, she felt aggrieved during this day, but all the grievances at this moment were too late to think about. She seemed to feel a flame burning on her body, and that feeling made her soul tremble. The concerto of life played in the room, with a bit of spring, but also a little pleasant to the ear. It wasn't until the high-pitched vibrato brought a touch of deep-seated vibrato that the curtain came to an end, but after a long while, the war rekindled. The next morning, Lu Feng felt that he was stepping on a foot on his face. He turned over and continued to sleep, but his feet were too big, and he stepped on his head. My head is smashed. Lu Feng opened his eyes and saw Duo holding the head of the bed with two hands and stepping on his head with 2 feet. Stinky Baba, get up, I'm going to be late. The little guy sat down on Lu Feng's chest, blinked with big eyes, and pouted, going to kindergarten. Duo, you're 5 years old. You should be almost 40 pounds now. You're no longer a child of 3 or 4 years old. Don't wake me up by stepping on my head, okay? Lu Feng closed his eyes and said. Let your mother take you there. Zhang Xiaoyan lay on the side and said, continue to step on him. Only then did Lu Feng realize that Zhang Xiaoyan hadn't gotten up yet. He turned his head and stared at her with wide eyes, and asked, why haven't you got up yet? What do you think? Zhang Xiaoyan asked back. This, isn't it? Is it swollen? Swollen, you big head. Zhang Xiaoyan stretched out a foot and kicked him, and said angrily, my body is weak. It should be my weak feet. You have to come a second time. I don't want to get up. You send Duo to the kindergarten and drop by to work in the factory. Zhang Xiaoyan leaned on Lu Feng's shoulder with a coquettish expression. Come on, I'm going to be late, Duo shouted. Lu Feng put on his clothes and said to himself, men, it's really difficult. A woman hums twice, and the sword and the sea of flames can be attacked. Where is so much nonsense? You don't want to? Of course I am 100 willing, you are so beautiful, it is my honor to die under your peony. Lu Feng got up, washed briefly, and put on Duo's clothes. It was almost 8 o'clock when the father and daughter went out. They bought 2 breakfasts on the way and drove to the gate of the kindergarten. Fortunately, it was not too late. There are many cars at the entrance of the kindergarten, including luxury cars such as Mercedes-Benz, Audi, and BMW. It is worthy of being a local aristocratic kindergarten. Lu Feng is driving a Santana, but it looks shabby. Taking Duo to the gate of the kindergarten, a group of teachers were already waiting there. All of them were little girls in their 20s, and some of them were pretty. There was a woman standing by the door. She looked like she was about 30 years old. She had a big wave. She was accompanied by a little boy. She said something to the teacher, and the teacher bowed and apologized. Walking to the door, Duo said hello to the teacher, very well behaved, and introduced, "Teacher, this is my father." "Hello, teacher," Lu Feng greeted. The female teacher glanced at Lu Feng, then turned around and said, "Mom Lele, Dad Duo is here, principal." The woman who kept apologizing looked at Lu Feng and said, "A lot of parents are here. We do have places where we are not well supervised, but more responsibility lies with him." Lu Feng frowned secretly and asked in a low voice, "Did you cause trouble?" "I didn't. Yesterday, Xi and Yapping and the others were playing together, and Lele fell down. He insisted that I pushed him," Duo said in a dance. The whole person couldn't tell the grievance. The woman came over angrily and asked, "What's wrong with your child? How old did you start beating? Look at what my child is like." Lu Feng looked at the little boy, that is, the skin was scratched a little, and it had scabbed over, and it would be fine in 2 or 3 days at most. "I asked my child about this just now. He fell by himself. It has nothing to do with my family." The woman looked at Lu Feng up and down, then looked at the car parked next to her. Her face became more and more ugly, and she scolded, "It doesn't matter if you say it's okay. How old are you? You have the final say." "It's not that I have the final say, but that's the way it is. My kids won't lie." "You're still talking back to me, aren't you?" The woman's face turned hideous, and Lu Feng said with her finger, "What do you think you are? It's justified to beat my children? Do you know who my husband is? I tell you, I am one. The phone ripped off your skin." The principal came over, pulled Lu Feng aside, and persuaded, "It's better to have less than one more thing. You should apologize to others. Men are not easy to mess with." Lu Feng looked at her very surprised, and said, "It's not my child's fault, why should we apologize? Her men are not to be messed with, so I can just pinch them? Are you a kindergarten, or a social person? Don't lose your temper at me. People think that your child did it now, and it's not good to say it. People are angry now. Is it your child who did it? Does it make a difference? If you open a broken Santana, you will feel like a rich man. Is it?" The principal said sarcastically, "If you drive this car to the village, you are the uncle, and when you come to us, you are a beggar." Lu Feng knew that some people in this world looked down on others, but he didn't expect that he would meet such a high-quality person. Looking at her, he sneered and said, "Whoever has the money, whoever is with you is the master, right? Yes, I'm not forcing you to apologize. If people are unhappy and target you, don't blame me for not reminding you." Lu Feng nodded and said to Lele's mother, "Your husband is very good, isn't he? Anyway, it's useless for me to say anything now. You think it's my child who did it, right? I didn't wrong you, it was your child who did it. Let me tell you, if you don't tell me today, don't blame my family for being rude. The woman's voice was sharp, like a shrew, and her mood was unstable. Okay, I'm not going to the school today. I'll come back after school in the evening. Don't you want to be ostentatious? Who has more money? Lu Feng stared at the principal and said, then let's compare. I not yet, I can't afford this place for my daughter. What are you pretending to be rich? Your wife drives this broken car to pick up the children every day. Who doesn't know? Let me tell you, the tuition fee will not be refunded, the principal said indifferently. Don't apologize, right? I'll wait for you after school. If the tortoise doesn't come, I'll go to your house. Don't think that I don't know where you live. I can give you a phone call even if I dig 3 feet in the ground. Dig it out. The woman pointed to Lu Feng and shouted, don't be arrogant in front of me, you don't deserve it. Lu Feng was so angry that it was not safe to leave Duo at school, so he picked her up and walked to the car. Dad, are you not going to school? It's a holiday today, and when it comes to evening, I'm forced to pretend. My father can't support you now. I'm a fool. Your mother may endure this kind of thing, but father, absolutely can't bear it, you know. Lu Feng opened the car door and looked at her and asked, is Dad okay? It is good. Come on, take a sip. Duo's face was full of smiles, and he gave him a kiss. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 125. In the factory, each department held a morning meeting early in the morning, especially after Lu Feng returned. The nerves of each department were tense. Although GMA Foods was established for a short time, the internal rules and regulations were very strict. For some people, it is even harsh. The monthly performance indicators are overwhelming, and the point system is used to carry out the last place elimination method. Lu Feng held a meeting and said what this is to reduce entropy and increase, but everyone does not understand. Under high pressure, it means high efficiency. If you want high efficiency, you need high returns. The wages of the bottom employees are 1/3 higher than other factories, and the treatment is better. As for the management, as long as they do well, they can get shares. Even become a partner. Lu Feng just combined the management systems of later generations of Huai and Ali. He did dilute a lot of shares, but as the largest shareholder, he can always firmly control GMA Foods and let employees face it in the best state. He knew better than anyone about the truth that if you wanted a horse to run, you had to let the horse graze. Zhang Fengxia had already arrived. She was a little curious about the mentality of these management personnel in the factory. She always felt that these people were like chicken blood. Entering Lu Feng's office, he flipped through the folders on the desk. What are you doing? You can't move things around, come out, an aunt said nervously. Ah, Zhang Fengxia looked at the other party, but she was a cleaner and said, I'll take a look. This is the chairman's office. Which department do you belong to? Auntie looked at her suspiciously. I'm Mr. Lu's secretary. Just do your job, don't worry about me. Auntie turned her head and left. Zhang Fengxia breathed a sigh of relief. Everyone here feels very disciplined, giving her an indescribable sense of depression, and they all perform their duties, and she is like a purposeless person here. Vagrant in general. She has learned a lot of classic business management. For a factory that has been established for less than a year, she has such amazing execution ability, she can't believe it. Looking at some internal meeting documents of the factory, Lu Feng has basically left the operation of the factory and handed it over to Gao Jiwei. Zhang Fengxia is a little puzzled. Why does a person like Gao Jiwei condescend to be under Lu Feng's hands? What are you doing? Which department? Work clothes and badges. Several security guards walked in and asked in a row. Zhang Fengxia turned her head and was a little embarrassed. Looking at the cleaning ant at the door, it was obvious that she had called the security guard. "I'm Mr. Lu's friend. You said it was the secretary just now." Auntie ruthlessly exposed her. I really, I came yesterday and went to other offices to ask, yesterday. Let's walk around, go to the personnel department to check first, and you'll find out. Those from our factory are not allowed to come in, you know. What's wrong? As soon as Lu Feng came over, he saw the cleaning ant standing at the door. "Mr. Lu, it looks like a burglar has broken into your office." "Ah," Lu Feng yelled, and rushed in with Duo in his arms. The office has all the information about the 16 branches, as well as product formulas, business plans, marketing plans, and a lot of information. When she saw that it was Zhang Fengxia, a cold sweat broke out on her back, and she said, "It's okay, I know this person, you go out." "I said it was his friend," Zhang Fengxia said helplessly. "I clean this place every day, but I haven't seen it before. I'm sorry." "Aunt Zhao is fine, you're busy with your work, it's good to be a little vigilant. After all, my office information is very important, and some people are rude." "Normal," Lu Feng said politely, and Aunt Zhao went to other offices to clean up. "What do you mean?" Zhang Fengxia looked at Duo and asked, "Where is her mother?" "Let you take care of the child." "Don't mention it, it's annoying." Lu Feng put Duo on the ground, let her play by herself, sat on the chair and said, "Are you sure you want to stay? If you give me the money, I'll leave." Zhang Fengxia was a little underwhelmed. "How about this? After a while, you go to the personnel department to go through the entry procedures, and the monthly salary is 300, which is considered a person in the factory." Lu Feng took out a piece of letter paper, wrote a recommendation, and handed it to her. "Take it. 300 a month. I, Harvard undergraduate, Yale graduate student, you still owe me so much money, are you embarrassed?" Lu Feng raised his head to look at her, and said directly, "I know what you want. If you want to stay by my side, put away your arrogance. If you don't want to go, just put it on the table, leave your bank account, and leave by yourself. I'm a beauty anyway, so you can't be gentle and coax me." "Coax you?" Lu Feng sneered, leaning back on the chair and said, "Take a good look at my dark circles and my face that is about to have kidney deficiency." "Huh, disgusting." Zhang Fengxia turned her head and walked out the door with disgust on her face. Lu Feng sorted out his thoughts. Next is the meeting between the design department and the R/U0026D department. There are a lot of meetings to be held today. He has been away from the factory for so long. He wants to know the general situation, especially the products and market after the year. 10 minutes later, Zhang Fengxia walked in with a badge on her chest, sat down and said, "Can I ask you something?" "Say. How did you fool Gao Jiwei?" Couldn't it be because of his outstanding ability that he is willing to stay with me out of admiration?" Lu Feng looked at her and said. "Cut." Zhang Fengxia curled her lips and said, "Just you? I've already joined the job, what's my task today?" "You can't do anything, let's play with my daughter for a day today," Lu Feng said and began to organize the information on the table. Zhang Fengxia looked at Duo holding a doll in her hand. She thought she was going to comb the doll's hair. Unexpectedly, she twisted her head off, and then twisted her arms and legs off. She took out another doll and began to install it randomly. "If you have a father, you will have a daughter," Zhang Fengxia sighed. Gao Jiwei walked in, holding a folder in his hand, and said, "Mr. Lu, everyone is almost ready, have you not been to school?" "Don't mention it, the last student was mad at me." Lu Feng closed the folder. "What's the matter? Are you crying and playing with your temper again?" "She's quite good, but the kindergarten principal and teacher are even more angry with me." Lu Feng sighed and walked out of the office. Gao Jiwei is full of confusion. Usually when he goes to kindergarten to go to school, the children cry, So why bother the teacher and the principal? Are you hired? Yeah, thanks to you, I didn't earn a penny. Now I have to take care of this little brat. I am a foreign student, just like a nanny. Zhang Fengxia squatted down and said to Duo Duo, you bring doll, let's play somewhere else and follow your father. Hug. Duo Duo opened his hands. Zhang Fengxia looked at her chubby appearance, and was very happy. She hugged her, walked outside, and asked Gao Jiwei, why are the employees here so energetic? Take care of the safety here. The employees in the factory have a great sense of belonging. Because of the money. Not all, the working atmosphere is very good. According to Mr. Liu, this is called corporate culture. He told me that a good system can screen out high-quality talents to stay. The word quality is not only about workability. And each person's character. Gao Jiwei pondered for a while and said, to be honest, the factory is developing too fast, so fast that I can't keep up. Everyone is very tired, and everyone is nervous, because every month people are leaving, and the personnel department is constantly recruiting people. So tired, why do you need to maintain it? Everyone is earning wages, and they are fired if they fail to meet the targets. Gao Jiwei thought for a moment and said, hopefully, he is a very good dream maker. You know, he diluted 30% of his shares. You can feel the earth-shaking changes in the factory every day you come to work. Come on, if the factory is good, you will be fine. You are just like watching your own child. Zhang Fengxia carefully felt the feeling. He said, Lu is always a very attractive person. He is very capable. He is like a bottomless pit, and people can't see the head at a glance. At the same time, this person is very ambitious. You admire it so much. It's a pity. I have something to tell you. Zhang Fengxia glanced at Duo Duo in her arms and said with her mouth, this child is nothing like him. Gao Jiwei saw that she had discovered the appearance of the new world, and couldn't help laughing. He was afraid that he would hear it a lot. After all, the child was old and had already started to remember things. He said with his mouth, it was not personally, but adopted. What? Zhang Fengxia said in shock. It's nothing. You don't care about these things that have nothing to do with you. Don't talk nonsense. Go in for the meeting, Gao Jiwei said and entered the conference room. Lu Feng was already sitting there and turned his head to look at Zhang Fengxia. Duo Duo in her arms saw Lu Feng and said, Dad, hug. Hug. You either come in or take her out to play. Don't block the door, okay? Zhang Fengxia walked in a hurry, sat on the chair beside, watching Duo Duo playing with dolls by herself. She was already thinking why the two didn't have children, and all kinds of bloody plots were playing out in her mind. Where's the product? Lu Feng looked at the crowd and said, serve it up, let me taste it. The two bowls were brought up. Lu Feng ate some canned food, nodded slightly, and said, this taste is fine, not purely sweet, but also a little sour. These flavors are good. We must consider the south and the north. Different tastes. Do you need to supply them separately? What about product packaging design? Mr. Liu, this is the photo and design concept. We have made 3 different designs, not only in packaging, but also in capacity and bottle shape. We have also made great efforts to draw on some Coca-Cola market experience. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 126. The meeting lasted for more than an hour. From product packaging to market research, Lu Feng constantly revised the plan, especially for the packaging of glass bottles. With the growing of various departments, especially the absorption of outstanding talents from state-owned enterprises, the current design is becoming more and more mature, and many programs are also doing a decent job. In the morning, 2 meetings were held in a row, and the current market plan was finalized. At the same time, the 6 factories in the early stage must produce as soon as possible. The time is approaching March. If the first half of the year cannot be won, the second half of the year will be particularly tragic. Lu Feng knows this truth. Otherwise, the market will show a slump. The most important thing is that the confidence of the insiders will be hit. Lu Feng understands the truth. Now GMA is very powerful in the local market, so everyone at GMA Food is very motivated. Let's make a decision first and execute them individually. The factories in Baiwan City ask them to pay more attention. Don't just focus on their own work, but have a big vision. Lu Feng closed the folder and said, let them send people out to go to develop the surrounding areas where these 6 factories are located. Even if we do not build factories, we must understand the surrounding supply, raw material market, etc. to provide an auxiliary role, and we must not be unfamiliar with life. We have been deceived. Many people at the scene laughed when they heard Lu Feng's remarks. GMA Food was deceived, it was really a joke. Eat first. Lu Feng waved to Gao Jiwei as he spoke and left the conference room with his head down. Mr. Lu, what do you want to say? Gao Jiwei followed. Can the assembly line be pulled over in early March? Lu Feng asked. It shouldn't be a problem. I called their general manager a few days ago to ask. This batch of machines is purely imported, and the production efficiency has doubled compared to the original. Didn't we make an order last year? It's been very fast recently. I heard that it has arrived. It's in the port, and we're going through customs. The speed is fast. If the other party can't get through the joints, we can help if we can. We can't afford to delay the time. If we can't put it on the market in April, it will hurt. By the way, how is Wahaha doing recently? Lu Feng asked. Let's talk later. Gao Jiwei smiled stiffly. Lu Feng had already sensed something. He didn't speak on the way to the cafeteria. There were a lot of voices behind him, and he remembered that the child was still there. Come on, Dad. Hug. Lu Feng reached out and hugged Duo, looked at Zhang Fengxia and said, you've been coaxing your child all morning, are you tired? Duo is very good, I feel like you, and I am very interested in business. Zhang Fengxia looked at him, and she already had some different senses. She sat next to the 2 meetings this morning and listened to her full name. The 2 meetings spanned a great deal. From product R/U0026D, marketing, enterprise management, capital mobilization, to the scheduling of all parties involved in purchasing machines, Lu Feng was able to handle everything with ease. He had his own standards for everything, very clear, and acted simply. Once it's settled, no more talk. In the past, Zhang Fengxia felt that Gao Jiwei was definitely the busiest person in the whole factory, and he handled everything. Lu Feng was going to accompany people to eat, make connections, fool people, and even deceive people. Now it seems that if Lu Feng takes care of one for the factory, it is definitely easier than Gao Jiwei. Let's eat first, there is a meeting in the afternoon. Since you are a secretary, you can try to make minutes of the meeting. Zhang Fengxia couldn't help rolling her eyes. She coaxed her children and made meeting minutes. In the cafeteria, Zhang Xiaoyan had already sat at the table and started to eat. In the morning, the kindergarten called home and briefly explained the matter. It was nothing more than persuading many children to quit. Only then did Zhang Xiaoyan know that Lu Feng sent his children to school early in the morning, but he was not at school at all. When he arrived at the factory, the staff told her that Lu Feng had a meeting in the conference room. When he was about to walk to the cafeteria, Lu Feng asked, "How is Wahaha?" "That's right, didn't I come here to find an agent last year? In fact, it is to pave the way for this year. Last year, Mr. Zone formulated a comprehensive plan. This year, it will start to operate, and the products have already entered our urban area." Lu Feng stopped, put Duo on the ground, and told her that he was walking by himself. His heart was unspeakably heavy. His time was too tight. If he gave GMA food an extra year, he would not be like this. Passive. What's wrong? President Liu. There is a feeling of being beaten into my hometown, Lu Feng sneered. It's okay, in a few months, our canned food and small food will flood the streets and alleys of Hangzhou, and we will buy some Wahaha nutrient solution. Drink for the kids. I have it in my office. I saw it at a supermarket the day before yesterday and bought it back, but they didn't have much stock on the shelves, and they were sold out quickly. It's still in the warehouse. Gao Jiwei went into the office to get it. Lu Feng stepped forward, and when he entered the cafeteria, he saw Duo holding Zhang Xiaoyan's thigh and talking endlessly. There's something wrong with the kindergarten. Why don't you call home and ask me to take her back, so I'll toss you all morning, Zhang Xiaoyan said. Before Lu Feng could speak, Zhang Fengxia said, Duo is very good. I sat there all morning and listened to his meeting. You coaxed? It's hard work for you. Auntie gave me a lollipop. Duo took out a lollipop from his pocket. Lu Feng sat down and said, let's eat less sugar. I'll call you a toothache all day long, it's all worms. Gao Jiwei walked in and handed over a few bottles of Wahaha to Duo. The food was already on the table. Lu Feng picked up the table and chopsticks to eat. The atmosphere on the table was a little dull. What's the matter with the kindergarten? I paid so much money. If I say I won't let me go, I won't let me go. I'm robbing me. I have to go and ask for an explanation, Zhang Xiaoyan said. Yes, wait for me to get off work. Sometimes, it's not good to be too low-key. Others think you are easy to bully. Lu Feng put down the tableware and said to Gao Jiwei, find someone to do something and do more. Order the car, and by the way, call the dog brother in the city center and ask him to find someone to support the scene. Which dog brother? Gao Jiwei thought about it, and there is no such name in the local business community. On the road, mention my name, he must know, let them make the battle bigger, this is a small matter, if you want to eat, let's arrange the matter later. Lu Feng took the bowl and ate. Don't make too much trouble. If you have something to say, let's go and reason with him, Zhang Xiaoyan persuaded him. Not everyone in this world is reasonable. Don't worry about it. You can take your children in the factory in the afternoon and go back together in the evening. Zhang Xiaoyan wanted to say something else, but she knew that what Lu Feng had said was basically a smear and a nail, and it was nothing to say. After eating, I took a simple lunch break on the single bed in the office, and continued the meeting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. In the private room, Brother Go stretched his waist. He just woke up. Now he is no different from last year. He is still the same place. He has to mention it. Do you know the owner of GMA Food? In his eyes, he and Lu Feng are already people from two different worlds, and Lu Feng's way of handling things no longer requires a low-level guy like him. However, when the phone rang, a younger brother handed him the phone. Brother Go listened to the voice on the phone and his eyes gradually lit up. He kept agreeing, with a pious smile on his face, indescribably humble. In the eyes of the younger brothers, Brother Go is the number one existence on the road. Many bastards are horrified when they hear his name, but at this moment, the tall image is a bit collapsed. After hanging up the phone, Brother Go had a confident face and said, Go, call me all the dog stuff, and it's our honor to be able to support President Liu, you know. The local car rental market has once again ushered in a big list, cleaning all luxury cars. At 5 o'clock in the evening, the kindergarten is about to finish school, and there will be traffic jams here every time after school. Now there are only a dozen cars passing by in the city center in an hour, but there is a traffic jam here. This is the gathering place of the richest people in the whole city. There are even some people who are here to guard the major bosses. The teachers who can work in this kindergarten are all beautiful in appearance and stature. They must not only be good at singing and dancing, but also have a certain degree of education. Few people say that he is a mistress reserve. Look, which big boss is this today? There is actually a team. What kind of car is that? Crown. Ouch, it looks like it's imported, Audi. An Audi drove on the head, followed by a Toyota and a Crown, forming a team, attracting many people to look here. 3 cars parked at the entrance of the kindergarten, and a fashionably dressed woman walked down, with arrogance on her face, and shouted, "Damn, fight with me to get rich." The old lady throws money at him. "Where's the principal?" The principal ran out in a hurry and saw the woman with a smiling face and said, "Mom Lele is here. I have called Mom Duo to inform her children not to come in the future. If you need compensation, we can take her. The tuition will be reimbursed to you." "Did I send you that money?" A man walked down. He looked 40 years old, with a bloated body. There were 4 or 5 young people behind him, who looked a little majestic. "Just tell me, where is he? He's posing with me. I'm tired of seeing him. He dares to bully my son, and he dares to tell my wife that it's not his child who pushed it. Is it him? What's wrong with the child pushing?" The man stepped forward and scolded, still befriending Lao Tzu. "Mr. Wu is handsome again." "It's different for people who do big business," the principal said with an apologetic smile. "It has nothing to do with our kindergarten. If you want him to have an earthquake, I can give it." "No, didn't he want me to wait here?" "Then I'll see how many steel rods he has," the woman said arrogantly. The people who came to pick up the children from school all over were fried. A group of women gathered around and talked a lot. They didn't even care about connecting the children. There were even more people standing in the distance, all guessing what happened. "Who is this man? You don't even know him. You didn't go to a dance last time." "Ah, I've been dancing a lot lately." "Who is that?" "Mr. Wu, there is a cement factory that makes a lot of money." "How much can I earn?" "How does Mrs. Lee participate in the cement dance?" "Oh hey, who do you look down on? They make millions a year." "How much can you earn from seafood?" "Really, it's like you are talking about how high-end you are." Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 127. What about a million? Now a million isn't much money. Tisk tisk tisk, such a big tone. I'm afraid that some people are not even $1 million household, so they can't see a million. Okay, who offended President Wu? I heard what duoduuma is, because the children are fighting, and the one is very beautiful. That's right, it looks like a slut, and if you open a broken Santana, you think you are a person in high society. That's right, who drives Santana in the rich? Everyone was chattering, and everyone had an indescribable sense of superiority on their faces. Which of the people present did not have millions of assets? If it was put in 30 years, it would be equivalent to a group of billionaires. They are the top 1,000th of the city, and they have enough capital to look down on everything. After 5 o'clock, Lu Feng closed the folder, glanced at the time, stood up and said, "Let's do it today. I'm going to kindergarten." "How's the arrangement?" Gao Jiwei hurriedly stood up and said, "I just called and said that I'm already waiting at the gate of the factory. Mr. Lu, is it necessary to do this for the sake of the child?" "Of course it is necessary." Lu Feng looked at him with a deep gaze. This time, it was not just for a lot, but more importantly, for the right to speak in the local business community. Now Lu Feng is already the invisible richest man in the region. Especially in the battle with Ren Qianbo, many people have heard of his name, but not many people respect him, and many people don't even know him. The name of the head can bring a lot of convenience to people. Today, Lu Feng wants to be famous in the world, not only to let the business community know, but also to let the local ordinary people know him. After changing his clothes, Lu Feng led Duo towards the door, and everyone followed closely. The factory door was already full of cars, and it looked dark. The leader was a Bentley, with a group of young men in suits standing next to him. Seeing Lu Feng coming out, Brother Go waved hurriedly. He knew very well that Lu Feng was not like the three idiots. Any one of the words is attached to a relationship. All the people present were carefully selected by him. The 20 or 30 people stood in 3 rows. Everyone put their hands on their backs and shouted in unison, "Hello, Mr. Lu." The loud voice made everyone present cheer up. This scene is really shocking. Gao Jiwei didn't know what to say for a while. Zhang Xiaoyan was a little anxious when he saw this. It was just a child fighting. Zhang Fengxia looked at these people, she always felt that something was not right, and said, "Is the scene too big? I just want to be big. After tonight, both the business world and ordinary people must know my name." Lu Feng looked at Brother Go and said, "Get in the car." Zhang Xiaoyan wanted to persuade, but she opened her mouth, but she didn't say anything. She knew in her heart that it was useless to say anything about Lu Feng's decision, so she could only get in the car. The convoy headed towards the kindergarten in a mighty manner, with the imposing manner of leveling the kindergarten. Lu Feng sat in the back seat with Erlang's legs crossed, looked at Duo next to him, and said, "Daughter, Dad just wants to tell you one thing, we don't bully anyone, but if anyone dares to bully us, give it to me. Bully him when you die, remember, no one will be richer than you from now on." The little guy blinked and nodded. The time was approaching 5:30, the wide road was full of cars parked on both sides, and there were many people who came to watch the fun. Mr. Wu saw so many people watching him and talking about him, especially when he heard some stories about him, his face was even more serious. A touch of arrogance. The other party hasn't come yet? It seems that he is going to be a tortoise with his head shrinking. I really think that if he doesn't come, this is the end. President Wu threw the cigarette butt on the ground, stepped on it with his foot and shouted, "Dare to provoke me, Wu Miota, damn, don't go out and ask, I can throw money at him, go to his house to find him. By the way, everyone here today listen to me, this is my son. When I go back, I will tell you children that when you see my son in the kindergarten, show me some respect. If you think you are rich, your fist is hard, and you don't want to let us touch it. This can be said to be extremely arrogant." Originally everyone was watching the fun here, but they were provoked, and some people were upset, but they didn't want to be a standout and started scolding. However, judging from President Wu's money situation, it can indeed overwhelm the people present. "Mr. Wu, this is the address of that many homes. It's our fault that we didn't take good care of the children," the principal said with a smile on his face. "Let the head teacher apologize to you." A girl in her early 20s walked over, tall and handsome. She smiled sweetly at President Wu and bowed and apologized. When President Wu saw this, there was nothing left in his heart. "It's nothing to do with the teacher, what's this, class teacher's name?" "Mr. Wu, my name is Xiao." Mrs. Wu on the side was a little unhappy and said, "Okay, let's go. You have a lot of people, don't know him in the same way. I scolded her on the phone today, and I don't even dare to give a fart. They don't know your identity. They think you are rich if you open a broken." Santana said, "I said cruel words in the morning, don't you dare to come now, you." "There is a car." Someone screamed, and then the whistle sounded. In an instant, everyone in the audience looked towards the intersection, and the short ones even stood on tiptoes to see. Crowds crowded the road. "What kind of car is that? It looks like a convoy. What character? I don't know, but this pomp is really big, it doesn't look like an ordinary person." The convoy stopped at the entrance of the kindergarten, the door opened, and 20 or 30 men in black suits walked down, scolding all around, "Go back." People crowded and shoved, staring wide-eyed with curiosity on their faces. For some reason, Mr. Wu had a bad premonition, and his heart skipped a beat. Brother Go got out of the car and walked towards the Bentley in the middle. Some people on the road recognized Brother Go and exclaimed, Brother Dog. Really the dog brother? Brother Go opened the door for others. What kind of character and status is Brother Go? On the local road, Brother Go is equivalent to the Bentley and Rolls-Royce among the bastards. However, such an awesome character actually opens the door to others. The car door opened, a pink girl jumped down, and the boy named Lele pointed and called out, "Dad, it's her." Mr. Wu was already dumbfounded. He turned his head and asked his wife in a low voice, "Didn't you mean to open a broken Santana?" "It did break Santana, why are you panicking, who can't set up a battle?" Mr. Wu has also been on the road more or less. He knows a little about Brother Go, and most people would never dare to drive him like this. The car door next to him opened, and Lu Feng stepped out of the car and walked towards the door of the kindergarten. More than a dozen people followed behind, full of momentum. Before stepping forward, Lu Feng first looked at Lele's mother and said, "I said in the morning, isn't it more rich than pompous?" The woman looked at her man and frowned, "Old Wu, say something. Which company do you belong to?" "Why haven't I seen it before?" Mr. Wu stepped forward and sorted out his suit, obviously a little unsure of Lu Feng, and said, "Let me tell you, my relationship with some leaders. It's not ordinary, I pay taxes every year." "Don't talk about it, just talk about my daughter going to school here." Lu Feng looked at the principal and said, "You call my wife in the morning and ask my daughter to drop out, right?" The head of the garden looked a little embarrassed. She originally wanted to win over President Wu, and it didn't matter if she offended an ordinary family, but now it seems that President Wu is an ordinary family. Probably some of the temporary workers at our school. You didn't hear Mr. Wu's words just now. He pays a lot of taxes in a year and is friends with many leaders. I'll also put a sentence here. I pay more taxes than his income. Just a phone call and you can close the door, it's just a matter of words. What are you bragging about? I earn $1 million a year, what the hell do you do? Pay $1 million in taxes. Mr. Wu couldn't help shouting, "What a joke, there are such companies in the local area? The only private enterprise that can reach this level is GMA Foods, and Mr. Wu has also heard about some of GMA's bosses. Is he an ordinary person who can hire a person with a background like Ren Qianbo? Besides, he also dined with some managers of GMA Foods. A year's income of 1 million is absolutely unimaginable now." Many people at the scene exclaimed, looking at President Wu's face full of envy, "What kind of life is a year's income of 1 million? This is not something that ordinary people can imagine. Many people have just touched the threshold of 10,000 households." Gao Jiwei didn't want to get involved, so he sat in the car all the time. Seeing that it had not been done for so long, he got out of the car and walked over. When he saw the person standing in the middle, he was surprised, "Mr. Wu." Mr. Wu saw Gao Jiwei's happy face, and shouted to the surrounding, "Everyone is optimistic, just in time, the general manager of GMA Foods is passing by, and he is still my good friend, Mr. Gao, come here, now this friend, you tell me, what is the name of your company that pays more tax than mine?" Seeing his smug look on his face, Lu Feng couldn't help laughing, as if he had caught his braid. "Let me introduce you, this is our boss, Mr. Lu," Gao Jiwei said. "Lu, President Lu." Mr. Wu's face was filled with disbelief. He stared at Lu Feng with wide eyes. He was too young, didn't he mean that GMA Food was always a middle-aged man? If it wasn't from Gao Jiwei's mouth, he would never believe it. He's the boss of GMA Foodstuffs. Is this too young? Oh my God. Not to mention President Wu, everyone present was shocked. In the past 6 months, the 4 words GMA Food have been heard too much by locals, but the boss behind it has always been speculation and rumors. Looking at such a young Lu Feng now, how could he not be shocked? Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 128. Mr. Wu stayed on the spot. He felt that his whole body was a little stiff. He stared at Lu Feng in disbelief, and kept telling himself, how is this possible? He was introduced to Gao Jiwei at a local cocktail party some time ago. Now who doesn't know that GMA food is in the limelight? As long as he has a little relationship with it, he can make money. However, facing Lu Feng now, he is frozen on the spot. Such a good opportunity has completely screwed him up, and he is still worried that Lu Feng will take action against him. With Lu Feng's position in the local business community, he will be attacked. A few greetings are enough to make him drink a pot. The woman looked a little unhappy at him and said, "You talk, don't you say that no one in the city is angry? At home, I'm bragging about it so loudly, and now I don't let a fart." "You, shut up for me, what does a woman know?" President Wu scolded, looked at Lu Feng with a smile on his face, stretched out his hand and said, "President Lu, look at this flood of water rushing towards the Dragon King. The temple is a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding Nima," the woman was upset, pointed at President Wu and shouted, "How did you tell me at home? Did I ask you to come here to confess?" "Shut up, I don't want to have the same knowledge as you. It's all about the business world. What do you know as a woman? Go back to the car." Mr. Wu looked ugly, took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket and gave them to Gao Jiwei and Lu. A group of people scattered smoke. Seeing this situation, the people around them laughed out loud. Before Lu Feng didn't come, his arrogant and indomitable appearance scared the people around him enough. Such a big boss makes people feel like he has to spend money to buy people's lives. Similar. However, this lowbrow pleasing smile on her face is really funny now, causing everyone to burst into laughter, and the woman's face is completely unbearable. In her eyes, what can someone in the business world do? Isn't she marrying him for arrogant life? The woman picked up the child and shoved President Wu aside and walked towards the car. "Women, long hair and short knowledge, don't look outside," President Wu said. "Wait," Lu Feng said. "What? What else are you doing?" The woman turned her head and stared at Lu Feng with a stern look, and said sharply, "You can be arrogant if you have money. Let me tell you, you can't die if you have money." Zhang Xiaoyan persuaded from the side, "Forget it." "What's the matter?" Lu Feng took a puff of cigarette and laughed at her appearance. "In the morning, it seemed that you pretended to be a rich man and was aggressive, and even called my house. You were a rich man back then." "Ah, I'm just a cracker of Santana. What do I want? Could it be that you killed me? Don't you just have some stinky money? What can you do to me?" the woman sneered and said with disdain, "Then try hitting me and move me. Give it a try, and believe it or not, I'll lie on the ground." There was a burst of boos at the scene. The woman's shrewd side really embarrassed President Wu, and Lu Feng was so excited by her, but he had a good hand. "Mr. Lu, I made you laugh." President Wu was embarrassed, and he was afraid that he would be haunted in the local business world. "It's okay, I'll give you a choice now. My daughter told me that she didn't hit your son or push him. I believe my daughter. If you can prove that my daughter did all this, I apologize to you. Now there is no evidence, you are just doing this. Should you apologize to my daughter?" Lu Feng stared at him and asked. "Don't apologize." The woman rushed over and grabbed President Wu and scolded, "Why should you apologize to him? It was his daughter who beat him. If you have money, let him lose money. Our family's cement worker will have nothing to do with him. If I can't fight, what can he do to me?" Gao Jiwei was amused by her. President Wu was really going to be tricked by his wife. Obviously, his wife had never been involved in business affairs, nor had any education. Can get over this. Even Brother Go felt ridiculous when he saw her in such a state. As long as he was in the society for a few days, he would know that there is more than a simple business behind a rich local businessman. To put it in a bad way, the gang of people who just rely on their guts are afraid that they will all go in. Lu Feng can get to this day and play with President Wu, isn't it like a cat catching a mouse? It seems that this is also what President Wu meant, so I won't say more. I really don't have the skills, that is, when I have dinner with the leader in the future, I will say a few more words, Lu Feng said with a smile. Tell who the hum you like, the woman scolded a few words and turned around and left. Mr. Wu was so angry that he almost cried. Not to mention that Lu Feng really said hello, he had a hard time. Anyone who wanted to please GMA Food in the local area should avoid him from today, and he is not the only one selling cement. The more President Wu thought about it, the more angry he became. He bowed his hands to Lu Feng, turned around and chased after him, shouting loudly, I tell you, divorce. Are you sick? Divorce me. I don't want to divorce you and wait for the northwest wind, Mr. Wu said more and more anxiously. He raised his hand and slapped him in the face. The woman sat on the ground and cried, and Mr. Wu got into the car and drove away. Zhang Fengxia looked coldly at the woman lying on the ground, thinking to herself, whoever meets such a woman is really bad luck, not to mention offending people in business, so many people watch, she will hug with the child lying on the ground and rolling around, no one was there. Lu Feng turned his head to look at the kindergarten principal and a group of teachers, and waved. The principal walked over with an embarrassed face, rubbing his hands on his chest. Mr. Lu, I'm sorry. Don't call me President Lu, I'm the one who broke Santana. How did you tell my wife on the phone? Repeat. Lu Feng looked at her with a calm expression. On behalf of the kindergarten, I apologize to your family, I'm sorry. The principal stood back very smartly and bowed, I hope you can extinguish the fire, because we are wrong, all the fees for AdoptedChildren are reduced, are you optimistic? If you dare to publicize it, my children are going to school here to increase the popularity of your kindergarten. Don't blame me for being rude. Lu Feng could see her thoughts at a glance. The headmaster looked stiff and hurriedly said, don't worry, definitely not. Then the matter is settled like this. Lu Feng turned to look at the group of people and said, it's still early, if you can go back for a meeting, go back. Lu Feng handed Duo to Zhang Xiaoyan. Zhang Xiaoyan saw that the woman was still lying on the ground, and Mr. Wu's 3 cars had all gone. She felt a little soft-hearted, and went over to pull her up and go down a step. Why are you going? Lu Feng pulled her back. Almost all right, I think she knew she was wrong. You, poor bastard, believe it or not, you go over now, she is holding your thigh and blackmailing you for a sum of money. This kind of person can't do anything. You can take your child home and cook. Lu Feng. He stretched his arms around her waist and walked to the car. She took Zhang Xiaoyan into the car and ordered the driver to take him home, while Lu Feng got into another car. Zhang Fengxia hurriedly got into Lu Feng's car. So many cars, what are you doing in my car? Lu Feng looked at her and wondered. There are so many cars, why can't I take this car? Zhang Fengxia crossed her legs, more like a boss than Lu Feng, and said, look at the people around you just now, you don't seem to be famous locally. People in the business world know a little bit more. After Gao Jiwei came, I didn't care much about the factory. Some of the local business reception was done by him. You are usually a low-key person, why is there such a big scene today? Duo has been wronged, and the other party feels that he has money, and he smashes it with money. Besides, money is like a knife, you can show it or hide it, but it has a function after all, that is, killing. If your knife can't kill someone, you can't deter others. Zhang Fengxia raised her eyelids and glanced at him, and she felt that Lu Feng was usually a talkative person, but he would definitely be a ruthless person once he attacked. You're so kind to Duo. I heard that it's not your own. What if I don't have my own? She's been very kind to me. Where is it? I fell asleep and fed me my feet when Lu Feng said a lot. His face couldn't help showing a touch of pampering. Couldn't stop laughing. In the last life, Lu Feng had no children. He always felt that children were a burden, but now he feels that it is good to have a child. Playing with children is the best way to reduce stress. When passing through the city center, Lu Feng got out of the car and went for a stroll around several canteens and supermarkets. All of them sold Wahaha, but they were all out of stock. It is said that they were sold out as soon as they were put on the shelves, and many parents still made reservations. Lu Feng knew that Wahaha was popular, but he didn't expect it to be so popular. He got into the car and went to the factory without saying a word. Today, this incident was basically arranged by Brother Go. The car was parked at the entrance of the factory. Lu Feng got out of the car and walked into the factory. "Brother Dog, what are you doing?" "I know President Lu, let's talk." "Okay, you can go back. Don't worry, we won't treat you badly. We will return the rented car in a while, and outsiders are not allowed to enter the factory." Brother Go sighed and thought to himself, this time is different from the past. "Mr. Gao, when will Wahaha's new factory start production?" Lu Feng asked as he walked. "It should be just these few days. Last year, the northern market was deployed, and the machine was negotiated. The factory was bought at the beginning of the year, and the staff was easy to say. Speed up. Speed up. Speed up," Lu Feng said to speed up 3 times in a row, and then continued, "You give me a call from the other 5 factory managers. I want to make progress. I will call DuCafeng to continue urging the production line, and the product ingredients will be faxed. Send it." Lu Feng felt that his small cans might not be able to handle Wahaha's nutrient solution, and he somewhat underestimated its market power. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 129. When I returned to the office, I called the 5 factories first. It was basically still in the recruiting stage, and the management had already been formed. However, there were many employees and it would take a few days. Even if the employees were fully recruited, the training would not get time. Lu Feng called DuCafeng. Although he was the last of the 6 factories to start the operation, he was indeed the fastest. The management team was all set up. The initial 1,600 employees were all recruited today, and the factory area will be cleaned from tomorrow. For simple training. He also asked Lu Feng to hurry up with his hands and feet, and let the machine come quickly. If the time is too long, so many people will not be easy to manage. After hanging up the phone, Lu Feng had already sensed the abilities of the 6 factory directors. What is a great man? As long as you give him money, he can achieve the results you want as quickly as possible. In the evening, when Manager Li of the finance department came back from a business trip, he held a meeting for the finance department. Now, the most important department of GMA Food is finance. Their tasks are particularly heavy, and monthly business trips have become the norm, and they are more diligent than the marketing department. Although the company accounts of major factories are all under the company's name, they still have to check the accounts frequently. The money from the assembly line has almost used up all the funds that GMA Food can use. Last year, I gave a little advance payment, and now I have asked for the full amount. Excluding this part of the money, there is less than 50 million left. This money builds 6 big factories. Some idiots are dreaming. What's more, there are about 9,000 employees in these 6 factories, and the rest of the money is all special funds, which cannot be withdrawn in cash. I don't know where the salaries of the 9,000 people will be next month. However, Manager Li has been a financial manager for so long, and he is accustomed to facing such a financial situation. He quietly reported the data, but Gao Jiwei kept taking a deep breath, giving people the feeling that he was about to smoke when he was uncomfortable. "Mr. Gao, are you all right?" Gao Jiwei waved his hand and did not speak. "Are you uncomfortable?" Gao Jiwei waved his hand again. "Mr. Gao, why don't you have the financial meeting and rest early?" Lu Feng said. No, it's okay, I have to listen. I am now a partner and a shareholder. Although I don't know how the factory came to be, I at least know how it disappeared." Ha 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 ha. The entire finance group laughed. Gao Jiwei looked at Lu Feng and said, "Mr. Lu, I'm joking. The funds in front are tight, aren't those teams still talking? After the 10 factories are left to talk, we will have sufficient funds. Although there is a suspicion that they will be eating all the food, in a month's time, it can definitely be seen that I can't hold on." Lu Feng flipped through the folder, took a careful look, and said, "As long as we don't get beaten down for the first month, we will win. The problem I'm worried about now is to keep burning money." "What are you afraid of burning money? As long as you stay in the market, it's a big deal to sell equity financing. You can't backdoor listing. You can't go to the Shenzhen Stock Exchange, you can't go to the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, you can't go to the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, you can go to the New York Stock Exchange." Lu Feng looked at Gao Jiwei and said nothing. Carefully said, "This is an era of gold everywhere, it depends on whether you can dig it or not." Gao Jiwei sighed and thought to himself, yes, it's a big deal to cheat. If Lu Feng goes out to be a liar, he feels that he can cheat from one end of the earth to the other. "Manager Li, there must be no problems in the finance team. Everyone should work hard and run more. The 6 factories are all new people, new factory managers, and new team members. It is inevitable that some people will have crooked thoughts. If there is a problem, just call the police and send it in. Originally, he was sentenced to 3 years. If you find someone to find a relationship with me, you will have to sentence him to 10 years for spending money." Lu Feng slammed the pen on the table and said, "I want to kill one person as an example. Mr. Lu, these are easy to handle, just check the accounts every month. Now there is a problem. The contract we signed with the local government stipulates how long the factory must be built. All of our funds have been misappropriated." "Contract? Oh, Lao Li, you've been working in a state-owned enterprise for so long. Why is it still rigid thinking?" Lu Feng looked at him, wondering why he pushed such a simple question to himself. "I'm a financial person. 1 is 1, 2 is 2, and I can't take a penny less." Manager Li smiled awkwardly. "The contract is signed, and the rules and regulations are written in it. Who supervises the execution? Who supervises the execution? Just walk around more, ask them to dance, take a bath, and get some colorful, meaty, and vegetarian food, which can be reimbursed." Well, Lu Feng pondered for a while, then said, "By the way, Mr. Gao, inform the major factories that the public relations department must be done well, understand?" Ah, yes, is this colorful and meaty?" Gao Jiwei wondered. "Look at you, isn't the fun of life just eating, drinking, and prostitutes?" Puff. Ha 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 ha. The people present couldn't help laughing. Some young people were embarrassed and lowered their heads and dared not look at Lu Feng. The older ones looked at Lu Feng a little surprised. "As for me, I was also born into a poor family. In this world, no one is born with a relationship, but you can create a relationship. You tell those people to keep a distance, to be close when you use it, and to smile and stay away when you don't need it, understand?" The meeting was held until 7:30 in the evening. Lu Feng basically explained the finances and interpersonal relationships clearly. When the meeting was over, Manager Li sat there and smacking his lips. The reason why he jumped to GMA Foods was purely for giving high salary. As for this kind of financial model, he has seen many, high debt, high leverage, and high returns. It can quickly make a person soar into the sky. Of course, failure will also be miserable. He is not optimistic about the future of GMA food. This is what a balance master piles up, and sooner or later it will collapse. However, tonight's meeting gave him a different understanding of Lu Feng. Manager Li has been working hard recently. You can train more people. Once the company is formed, you can serve as the chief financial officer. Lu Feng sorted out the information and said politely, Mr. Lu, I listened to your understanding of business and officials tonight. I think you are a little too talented in business. You should go to the officialdom. Me? Lu Feng looked up at him and smiled, and said, I can't do it, I'm too sharp. Being an official is kind. Not only must you be able to work in the camp, but also have the ability to rule the world. I am a greedy man and a risk taker. To tell the truth, as an official, I am definitely a corrupt official, and sooner or later I will eat peanuts, and the most important point is that I am destined to fail. What? I graduated from elementary school. After Lu Feng finished speaking, he put the folder in the creek nest and walked out. Manager Li thought for a moment and smiled. The matter of education is not difficult to solve with Lu Feng's ingenuity. He just knew what he could do. Manager Li walked up to Mr. Gao and said, Mr. Lu is very interesting. It's not easy at such a young age. How much do you know? Me? I don't know, but he knows me very well. This guy is an old fox. I went back to the house to sleep. Gao Jiwei yawned and waved at him, telling him to leave work earlier. It seems that I can work for a few more years, which is naturally the best. Let me work until I am 70 years old. I will definitely have pension money. I just don't know if I can travel for business at the age of 70. Manager Li left. Out. Under the night, the local business community was discussing privately what Lu Feng was doing today. As GMA food became bigger and bigger, it felt like a local pillar industry, and no one wanted to mess with it, especially after hearing that Lu Feng was in various parts of the country. Crazy to take land, take money, and even have a fight with Southern Wahaha. Once it is successful, as long as you have a little contact with GMA food, even if it is to provide raw materials for his raw material processing factory, you will make crazy money. The local glass factory has provided GMA with an unknown number of canned bottles, and I hope he will use it. He even contacted Zhang Xiaoyan through his wife. On weekdays, there are still 3 or 5 friends of President Wu, but now there is no one to stand up for him, even if he has decided at this moment, divorce, and such a wife, sooner or later, she will be dragged down by her. Some state-owned enterprises were secretly observing and were a little surprised at the silence tonight. There is no doubt that GMA Foods is already the leading company of local private enterprises. Although this leader is not big, it is already very strong in the private economy. When Lu Feng returned home, it was already 9:30 in the evening. Duo and Zhang Xiaoyan had already fallen asleep. Lu Feng opened the door and took a look. Are you back? Have you eaten yet? Zhang Xiaoyan was about to get up and said, I'll go and warm it up for you. No, I've eaten. By the way, is that President Wu's wife going back? Lu Feng pulled his face down, pointed at her and shouted, I have corrected the stinky problem. You know, she loves life and death. She can still lie on the street and freeze to death. Why don't you worry about the whales in the Pacific Ocean? What about life and death? Zhang Xiaoyan let out a sullen voice. Hold Duo on the sofa, I'll take a shower. You've been tired all day. I'm happy. Lu Feng laughed and went into the bathroom to take a shower. The next morning, Lu Feng got up with a yawn. Zhang Xiaoyan pushed open the door and walked in and said, You should sleep a little longer, you were tired last night. It's all right, I'll go to the morning meeting in the morning. There's a lot going on these 2 days. There are a lot of things to do, So don't mess around at night. Zhang Xiaoyan sat on the edge of the bed and said shyly with a little woman, you are the boss, sleep a little longer. There's no need to say it twice. Lu Feng looked at her, gave Yin Tao a small kiss, and said, every day in the future. No, let's eat quickly, I have something to tell you. Zhang Xiaoyan was a little bit awkward and didn't dare to look at Lu Feng. Lu Feng put on his shirt and glanced at her. Seeing her in this state, he already understood in his heart that this person has a very simple mind, just a simple, strong, big girl who always thinks of others. Your parents called you again and asked you to arrange work for your two brothers. Ah. How do you know? Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 130. For his mother-in-law's family, Lu Feng felt the same way. Although he treated Zhang Xiaoyan in general, it was impossible not to keep in touch with broken bones and tendons. Moreover, Lu Feng also felt that it was time to send some money back to the family. My parents were still farming in the village, so they could give them some money to improve their lives. Now Lu Feng is not well off, most of the money is in the company, he distributed some money at the end of last year, and it is almost spent. When the factory is finished this round, I will take out 300,000, your mother's 150,000, my mother's 150,000, as for your two brothers, it's impossible, as for my mother, you go give it, don't say I've grown the factory. Lu Feng knew that no one had a few top quality relatives. He has a few uncles whose fighting power is not much weaker than Zhang Xiaoyan's two older brothers. At this critical time, Lu Feng doesn't want to be entangled by a bunch of people. Go ahead, I'll call my mother today to talk about it. Zhang Xiaoyan saw that he was a little tired and said, go to the factory, I'll send Duo to kindergarten. Lu Feng nodded and went to the factory after eating. Everything starts to speed up today, the phone calls are non-stop every day, the major factories are recruiting people rapidly, 3 to 5 meetings are held every day, all the details are within the scope of discussion, every situation, every accident surprises many people. Zhang Fengxia gradually integrated into it. She carried a pile of documents every day, and put on a work clothes from GMA Foods. She became a lot more capable and gained a lot of insights on some business matters, and she also had different ideas. The assembly line has settled in 6 factories. In the first year of the 1990s, there will be a head-to-head confrontation between the North and the South. Wahaha also seems to feel the crisis. The production capacity is breaking out, and some supermarket shelves in the northern provinces are beginning to appear. At the same time, Wahaha was contacting people from CCTV and wanted to strike a big blow for itself, but the price gap was a bit big, and I was afraid that it would be impossible to negotiate for a while. On March 19, spring returns to the earth. Not to mention that the south is already lush and green, even in the north, there are grasses emerging. Now the spring style is manic outside, and the yellow wind is often blowing in the sky. Lu Feng came back from a business trip in North China. He just attended the opening ceremony of the factory and cut the ribbon. Now, except for the factories under Du Kefeng, all the factories have started, and all product lines have been opened, from raw materials to outer packaging. The car was parked at the entrance of the factory, and Lu Feng entered the factory. Everyone's faces were full of exhaustion, but they were extremely excited. Lu Feng entered the office and said, production has already started, and now the front line is left, Wahaha Nutritional Solution, these two. How is the sky? The product supply capacity has come up. I heard that we will supply new products recently. I feel that our product formula has been leaked, Gao Jiwei said nervously. For those branches, it will definitely be leaked, Zhang Fengxia said aside. Small problem, if he dares to use it, I will dare to sue, as if I can't get his nutrient solution formula, everything is ready. Lu Feng took a deep breath while sitting in his seat, saying no at this moment. Out of excitement. In the food industry, in the early 1990s, Wahaha swept everything. Even Coca-Cola was not enough to be seen in front of others. Arctic Ocean, Gao Lego, Gian Libeo, etc. are now local products after all, not all of them. As for Gian Libeo, it will come later. Son. The food business war started around 1995. This war was fought from south to north, competing for every inch of the market. Jinmailang Group, Baexiang Group, Wahaha Group, Master Kong Group, and Uni-President Group were mixed with some places. Enterprise Group. These groups have an obvious characteristic. The product series is long and the coverage is wide, covering everything from instant noodles, snacks, and drinks. Wahaha did not want to do instant noodles, but lost the battle. The appearance of Lufeng is equivalent to giving the head-on Wahaha a blow, and now the battle of the world is about to explode. Lufeng picked up the phone on the table and called Du Kefeng. Mr. Lu, what's the matter? Du Kefeng's voice on the other end of the phone was very dull. Other factories have already started production. Can you produce in the next 2 days? Lufeng asked. There will be no problem in 2 days, and now the sales channels have been opened. At present, the agents have spread to Anhui and invaded several cities in Zhejiang. Hearing his progress, Lufeng showed a smile on his face, and said, "That's good, I will start preparing for production in the next 2 days. My request is to update the sales data in real time." Okay. After hanging up the phone, Lufeng pondered for a while to make sure that he thought of everything he should think about. The first step must be to establish a brand. The main positioning of small cans is high-end, healthy, and nutritious. In advertising and marketing, Lufeng mainly targeted the small pots of tea from the previous life. First of all, it was used to give gifts, visit patients, and food for children. "Mr. Gao, do you know the newspaper office in Hangzhou?" Lufeng asked. "I know, what's wrong?" "The day after tomorrow, Director Du will start production, and we are equivalent to a full-scale start. Buy me all the pages in Hangzhou the day after tomorrow, and just write a few words, GMA food, redefine healthy food." This. Gao Jiwei felt Lufeng's provocation. So many newspapers across the country chose Hangzhou. Isn't this looking for trouble? Is it too high profile? And no one said anything about competing with us. Touching porcelain marketing, can't you? Lufeng smiled and said, "Just touch porcelain, just fight with him, just quarrel with him, arguing and arguing will make us angry, and the spokesperson, let them know, give me the brands of the 4 heavenly kings and place them in front of major stores, and focus on publicity." "We didn't sign the 4 heavenly kings either," Zhang Fengxia said embarrassedly. "Can't you hang up without a signature?" Lufeng knew in his heart that the first shot must be fired, otherwise it would be enough, and he would have to do something, even if it was being sued every day. Now the hot search is in major newspapers and local news TV stations. A group of people can mutter about a newspaper for a day. What Lufeng has to do is to make GMA food an internet celebrity. The copy handed over before, "What kind of royal supplies," is to be related to the royal family, to show dignity. Don't talk about it. Which country is the furthest away from us? Just say which country our oranges are imported from, what EU standards, what health certifications, and all of them. Lufeng suddenly thought of something, patted his head and said, "Switzerland, let's say it's Swiss." Zhang Fengxia laughed when she heard it. "A broken can, from such a long way, enough gas money?" "My request is only one, the money is less, but the matter has to be bigger for me." Lufeng took the cigarette from the table and said, "We have come this far, we have no turning back, I am not afraid. In a lawsuit, I am not afraid of being scolded, but I am afraid that it will disappear quietly." In major provinces, some advertisements have begun to appear from canteens, supply and marketing cooperatives to supermarkets. At the same time, canned products of GMA food have begun to be put on the shelves, and snacks have also begun to occupy major markets. 2 days later, billboards for the 4 heavenly kings began to appear, which read, "Small cans, from far away." It was also on this day that half of the newspapers in Hangzhou were bought out, with a gray background and huge words that read, "GMA Food, Redefine Food Health." Below is a line of small characters, "Small cans, new listing, next second to Hangzhou." Early in the morning, in addition to a lot of newspapers, there was also a new market research report, not only from Wahaha, but also from GMA Foods. A whole dozen were placed on the desk. Mr. Zhong arrived at the office at 6 o'clock in the morning. The phone at his home was about to explode this morning, and they were caught off guard. At the same time, the front pages of the major northern provinces were all started at the Baidai GMA food factory. It can be said that this morning, Lu Feng occupied half of the headlines of Huaxia. There were 50 or 60 people in the conference room, and everyone stared at each other's newspapers. I made a trip to Xiaoshan yesterday, and I did put up the sign of the 4 heavenly kings. They said there was cooperation. This is a major intelligence error. The manager of the marketing department hurriedly said, "I have learned that GMA Foods does not have much money. These factories are entirely funded by investment. The annual income of his factory should be around 10 million, plus the raw material processing factory. Counting 20 million for him, can he afford 4 people? It's not good for people to add leverage." I heard later that there are 10 factories. We didn't talk about the CCTV advertisement. They want to talk about the 4 kings. It's possible that it's fake. Wait for the lawsuit. Besides, what do you mean by this newspaper? This person is looking for trouble. We are more passive now. If we respond, it seems that we are bullying him by a big factory. If we don't respond, it seems that we don't dare to mess with him. Isn't this a rogue? Mr. Zone flipped through the newspaper and said, "Okay, it doesn't matter if you don't respond. His product launch is considered a complete win. People are shameless and invincible. Let's ignore him and hold a press conference." Said that for a small northern factory like GMA Foods, we will take care of it in the market. What if it's still provocative? I have the phone number of the boss of GMA Food, so I will give him a call at night. Zong stood up and said, "Just do your own thing and follow the steps. The northern market will be laid out as soon as possible. You can learn about GMA Foods' acquisition of land and find an alternative factory first." Model. Zong glanced at the newspaper and threw it into the trash can angrily. His life was ups and downs. What kind of people have never seen before, not afraid of the rich, not afraid of the powerful, but afraid of the rogue. Now it seems that Lu Feng is the kind of person who has no money and is difficult to deal with. Now Wahaha is in full swing. As long as he gets on it, it is a natural advertisement. It's like an unknown boxer who publicly provokes and insults the boxer. If the boxer fights with him, the opponent will say that I lost to the boxer. If the boxer ignores it, he can scold him every day it's a tortoise with a shrunken head, and dare not fight him. As time goes by, the public will think of the boxing champion when they think of him. This kind of marketing is called bumper marketing and bundled marketing. It's shameless, but it really saves money.